Hi, today I'm going to do something that I really don't like doing, and that is a presentation where all I do is sit here and yak. There's lots of people that do that, and I really don't care to. But I've got some stuff that I think can be useful to a lot of people, so I want to get it out there. And fair warning, all I'm going to do is sit here and yak, and you're going to have to put up with my speech impediment and my Shatner-esque pauses, so please bear with me. Also, this comes with the caveat of everything I'm going to tell you is just my opinion, and I do not make any claim that my opinion has its origin in the mind of greatness. My opinions are based on my education and experience. Different people have different experiences, so different people have different opinions. I would tell you, though, that anytime someone tells you that their opinion does have its origin in the mind of greatness, you should be very incredulous to that. Anytime someone seeks to educate you and claim that their opinion is sagacious, you should ask them why. One of my favorite questions is, based on what? And you should ask those questions. Hopefully today I'm going to give you enough background that you won't need to ask me those questions. So, all that being said, let's get started. What we're talking about today is the top 5 things that you should be carrying if you're going to do concealed carry. The first one isn't even on the list of 5, but the first one is your permit. Most places require that if you're going to carry a concealed firearm, you have a permit and that you have it on you, and you should make sure you do that. Now, let's get to our top 5. First, your gun and a reasonable amount of ammunition. Well, some people might think that goes without saying, but I want to get that out there. Your gun and a reasonable amount of ammunition. What's a reasonable amount of ammunition? Well, to answer that, you got to ask the question, how many rounds does someone typically fire in a citizen-involved shooting? And the problem is that accurate statistics on that are extremely difficult to get. Statistics, easy. Accurate statistics, very difficult. Let me tell you a couple of anecdotes that I think will illustrate my point. This first one, to tell it in a way that would really make sense, would take about 15 minutes, and I'm going to try to condense it to about 3. So, bear with me. I was with 2 other people. We're out in the middle of nowhere, sitting in lawn chairs next to the pickup. And this is a place where it's typical that people are hunting varmints or shooting. So when I saw approximately 5 people that were armed about 400 meters away, it was not in any way a cause for alarm. Well, I see them. They disappear into the flora, and about 1 minute later, bullets start whizzing past us. Now, you might think at this point, well, this sounds like a hunting accident. No, if I told you the 15-minute version of this, it makes it very clear that these people were intentionally shooting at us. But anyway, they shot at us. 2 of us, we run to the only cover we have, behind the pickup, while the 3rd guy that's with us, he's standing out there oblivious to what's going on. Now, I'm going to change his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but what I said to him was, "Hey, Joe, you better get down, we're taking fire." Those were my exact words and exactly how I said it. In the interest of decorum, I can't tell you the exact words of his reply, but it was basically, "Get lost." Okay, whatever. So we're hiding. I'm trying to look over the pickup and see what's going on. A few more rounds go by, and Joe realizes, oh, he is in fact getting fired at, and he runs behind the pickup with us. A few more rounds go by, and then the firing stops, and then about a minute later, I see them at a great distance fleeing the scene. What does that have to do with how many rounds somebody fires? Well, now a few years later, when this subject comes up, and it rarely does, but when it comes up, Joe's version of events is that it didn't even happen, that he wasn't there. He has no idea what anybody's even talking about. And when you then get him to admit that, yeah, you were there, his version of events is, oh yeah, a couple of guys at a great distance had a negligent discharge and 1 or 2 rounds flew by us. Why? Why is that his version? Because he's really embarrassed. He touts himself as some kind of commando, but when the shooting started, he didn't even notice. And when I was telling him that, he was still in denial. And when he finally realized what was going on, he panicked and dropped his gun and ran. And he is extremely embarrassed about that. So he feels the need to really play down what happened. So here you've got 3 people. One will tell you it was 1 or 2 rounds. I'll tell you it was 15 or 20. The other man that was there will tell you it was 40 or 50. Accurate statistics are very hard to get. And you might think, well, that doesn't really count. What about a genuinely police-documented shooting? Okay, well, I've been in one of those. And I can tell you that, depending on which witness statement you read, and which forensic report you read, and which police report you read, and which newspaper article you read, I fired anywhere from 2 to 20 shots. The real number's a little bit different. And I could bore you for an hour with anecdotes like this of things that I have personally experienced. Accurate statistics on how many rounds someone fires in a citizen-involved shooting are extremely difficult to get. But from what I can piece together, from reports that I consider credible and what I've personally seen, numbers like 3 or 4 shots, that is a pretty accurate estimate. So what's a reasonable amount of ammunition? I'd tell you if you carry a typical concealed carry gun like this 5-shot revolver, carry it loaded, 1 extra speed loader, you're good. A small auto loader, like this Smith & Wesson or this Ruger, they'll both hold 6 plus 1. Carry it loaded, plus 1 extra magazine. I think that's very reasonable. In the days when my main carry gun was a Steyr GB, now this is a 9mm with an 18-shot magazine, I never carried an extra magazine. There are people that will argue that regardless of the magazine capacity, you should carry an extra magazine. Even if you have something like this FN57 with a 20-shot mag, you should carry an extra magazine because mishaps occur and you might drop your mag. Reaching for your spare is a lot easier than picking that one up off the ground. They will cite things like you might have a catastrophic malfunction that you have to take the magazine out to clear it, and you might drop that magazine. And reaching for your spare is a lot easier than picking that one up off the ground, especially if it's dark or if you're running. And there's some validity to that argument. So there's some pluses and minuses on both sides. But what I would tell you is, bottom line, gun and a reasonable amount of ammunition. And what is reasonable, no one can decide that for you except you. Second thing I'd tell you is a cellular phone. Well, that, many people would think that should go without saying too. A cellular phone is extremely important. You must have one and you must use it immediately. The thing you've got going on here is, it's a very common phenomena that a criminal will try to commit a crime. It doesn't really work out the way he wanted it to, so he will then call 911 and report that he was the victim of the crime he was actually trying to commit. I have seen this many times. It's something my attorney calls the race to the courthouse. I have seen police officers laugh about this on several occasions. Ha ha ha, whoever calls 911 first wins. And they will talk about how dumb it is that criminals try to get away with this. The sad thing is, I have on several occasions seen the police act on that. Again, let me tell you a couple of anecdotes to illustrate my point. When I was a kid, and I mean a child, I was walking down the street when a gang of thugs decided it'd be fun to try to victimize me. So their leader comes up and he says, "Hey kid, how about I kick your ass?" "No, please, leave me alone." "Come on, kid," and he shoved me, "let's fight." "No, please, leave me alone, just let me go by." And I'm standing there with my hands in my pockets. Now, this guy was, much bigger and much older and could have beat me up pretty easily. But just in case, he did have 3 thugs to back him up. And as I'm standing there with my hands in my pockets, and he said, "No, kid, how about I kick your..." And I maced him. Back in those days, it was mace, not pepper spray. Well, he ran away screaming and crying, and I made a hasty tactical withdrawal from the area and went to call the police. Now remember, this was when I was a little kid, so it was before carrying cellular phones was something that everybody did. Problem is, my route to a phone and their route to a phone, mine was a little longer. And they ran and called 911 and reported that they'd just been standing there and I came up and attacked them. Then the police came out and tried to figure about 11 different ways that they could come up with a crime to charge me with. Well, it didn't work because the scenario that I went up and attacked them was ridiculous, and there were some witnesses, so it didn't work. But it was successful in that it kept the criminals from being prosecuted. Because the police, seeking some reason that they could avoid doing anything, just took the tact of, well, it's one person's word against another, we can't figure it out, everybody shut up and go home. In another situation I was in where I actually had to shoot, very similar thing. Now, cellular phones, of course, existed at the time, but I was in a place where there was no cell signal. But the perpetrators were able to flee the scene and get to some kind of communication before I could. And so the police are called, they're on their way, good, all right. A police officer shows up, takes charge of the situation. Okay, you stay over here, you get over there, everybody shut up and sit down, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. A couple minutes later, police officer number 2 shows up. Number 2 asks number 1, who called 911? Number 1, well, they did over there. So police officer number 2 sticks his gun in my face. Yes, that's what happened. My point is, you must carry a cellular phone and you must use it immediately. Now, let's not be stupid. I'm not saying you should be shooting with one hand while you're down here talking to the police with the other. That's not what I'm saying. But you must call 911 immediately. You'll see training academies where they'll teach this. Come up, fire, come to the low, ready, scan the area, holster. No. Come up, fire, come to the low, ready, reach for your phone. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but you get the point. You must use that phone immediately. Now, let me give you a hypothetical. I actually live about 3 blocks from an ATM. If I were at the ATM and someone showed me a knife and demanded my money and I showed him a gun and diffused the situation, that's actually a fairly common thing. In reality, the chances that you'll ever have to shoot are very slim. The chances that you'll have to show a gun to defuse a situation are, by comparison, significant. But in that hypothetical, what you can count on happening is that criminal is going to go away when you show him your gun, and he's going to run around the corner and call 911 and report that he just asked you what time it was and you pulled a gun on him. As we're in that situation, since I only live about 3 blocks from the ATM, I might think I should get out of here, go home, call 911 from the safety of my home. No. You don't have the minute and a half it takes to do that. By then, he's already called 911 and you have fled the scene. You must carry a phone and use it immediately. Number 3, a camera. Now, luckily, these days, most cellular phones have cameras in them. If yours doesn't, get rid of it and get one that has a camera. You must document that scene. And again, I'm not saying that you should shoot with one hand while you're trying to take pictures with the other. Imagine how embarrassing that would be if you got confused and tried to shoot with your phone and take a selfie with your gun. But I'm saying, as soon as it's reasonably safe, you must document the scene. Sadly, crime scene photos don't always show what you want them to show, and sometimes official crime scene photos get lost. You have to document it, and when you do, something I'd tell you is take photographs of the license plates of cars in the area so you can at least to some extent document who and what was there. I'd also tell you that as soon as you take those photos, you text them to somebody else so that they're gone out of your phone and they can't be a point at any other time where your cellular phone gets confiscated and oops, those photos accidentally got deleted. Camera, very important. Now at this point it sounds like I've spent the last 15 minutes just trashing on the police, and that is not what I'm trying to do. The police represent themselves as highly trained professionals, and for the most part they are, but I am telling you that my opinions are based on seeing and experiencing and dealing with these things again and again and again. So take it for what it's worth. Now the 4th thing I'd tell you that you must carry is a flashlight. And I'm not talking about some 4D cell mag light, I'm talking about a small flashlight that you can fit in your pocket. Now, the debate comes up, well, what about a flashlight mounted on your firearm? Those can be a good idea, but I would tell you to carry one mounted on your firearm in addition to a handheld, not instead of a handheld. And your handheld should be small enough that you can fit it in your pocket and should have the button on the back or some other place where you can activate it easily with one hand while you're holding it in this position. And the reason I advocate a handheld flashlight, let me give you a hypothetical. You come out of the restaurant, it's dark, you go to your parked car, which is parked right next to somebody else's car in a dark parking lot, and as you get there you see somebody crouched between the 2 cars. You can pull out your flashlight while keeping your gun down in an unobtrusive, non-threatening place, and you can say, "What are you doing?" The response you're probably going to get is someone's going to say, "I'm looking for my keys. Can you shine that light a little more to the left?" Problem solved. If you point your gun at somebody with your gun-mounted flashlight, you have, in the state that I live in, committed the crime of pointing a firearm at another person. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, like the other person's trying to kill you, but you see what I mean. And you don't need to point your gun at everybody, and you might be committing a crime if you do, and a handheld flashlight can prevent that. And in all reality, if you have your gun down here and your flashlight up here, you know, doing that just doesn't take very long, and you can do it if you need to. I would tell you a gun-mounted flashlight is a good idea in addition to a handheld. The fifth thing I'd tell you is you should have several of your attorney's business cards on you. Now, right now some of you are thinking, well, why don't you just program your attorney's number into your cellular phone that you're supposed to carry? That is a great idea, but that's not what I'm talking about. The purpose of the business card is to hand it to a police officer and say, "I will make a full statement when my attorney is present," and then shut up. And again, I could go on for an hour just about that topic, but I think the point speaks for itself. I would also tell you that you should have an attorney on retainer. And what I mean is, you've actually paid your attorney an amount of money that's held on account for you, so that when you call him up and you say, "I need your help right now," he's already got money in the bank, he's already on the clock, he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he's going to get paid, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to pay him. Problem is, a retainer is quite often something to the effect of $5,000, $10,000, $25,000. And I know it's very easy for me to sit here and say, "Oh, sure, have an attorney on retainer." Not so easy to do. Watch how easy this is to say. $1 million! Wow, that was easy to say. But it's not so easy to pull out your checkbook, write a check for $10,000 and say, "There you go, hold on to that for me. Not like I got anything better to do with that money." But if you can do it, do it. And even if you can't, at least spend the $100 to go in and have a face-to-face with a criminal defense attorney so he knows who you are, you know who he is, and you can have some kind of working relationship, and then carry several of his business cards in your wallet. So to recap, gun and a reasonable amount of ammunition, cellular phone, camera, flashlight, several of your attorney's business cards, and of course it goes without saying, your permit. So, all that having been said, if you have sat through this entire thing, thank you for your patience. And thanks for watching the 5 things you should carry if you're going to carry video.